How is it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hip Drop Podcast. Lucas and I are back on this Tuesday. We are 10 weeks into the NFL season. We are going to recap the action from week 10 that contained a lot of borderline unwatchable primetime games, two 10-7 games, and then Chargers Steelers was not exactly a Mona Lisa either. We will go through it all. And of course, tomorrow we'll give our bigger picture thoughts and some happenings around the league. And then, of course, our picks for week 11. Lucas and I are still separated by like 2 games. But first of all, Lucas, most importantly, how you doing on this Tuesday?
I'm doing pretty well. Unfortunately, you won. I think you finished ahead of me in the picks of this week because we split the
Yeah.
first two disagreements, and then the Eagles Packers. You had the Eagles, I had the Packers. Felt like that game was there to be had for Green Bay, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. I mean, they looked rough, but we'll get to that at the end. But we'll start with the game that opened up week 10. Maybe one of the worst primetime games I've ever seen. Probably the worst primetime game I've seen in a while. The Broncos and the Raiders. The Broncos win. I say in air quotes, 10-7. They improved to 8-2, tied for the best record in the league. The Raiders season is cooked. I actually thought the Raiders would be somewhat decent this year. They're not. They're just as bad as they've been. They're 2-7. They're awful. I mean, Lucas, what can you say about this game? Look, Denver's defense is awesome. I mean, we've known that they can get after the quarterback. They sacked Geno Smith 5 times in this game, I believe. But Bo Nix was horrific in this football game. He was awful. He threw 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Both of them were his fault. He was just bad. And if you're the Broncos, like, you're happy with the win, you're 8-2, you'll take that any day of the week. But in the back of your mind, you have to say, like, maybe do we have a quarterback problem? Because Bo Nix this season, when they haven't played the Bengals and they haven't played the Cowboys, has not been good. I mean, other than some fourth quarter devil magic, he has been easily one of the 10 worst starters in the league this year. And they've been bailed out because their defense is really good. And other teams, the Giants in week 7, really just shot themselves in the foot down the stretch. So, like, if you're the Broncos, like, you won the game, but you got to be at least, if you're serious about competing for real things this year, which I think their defense is good enough to do, you have to have some concerns about Bo Nix in the back of your mind, because if he continues to play the way he has, they're not going to accomplish anything of note this year.
No, I don't care what Denver's record is. Like, if any real team in the playoffs has to play them, and by real team I mean any team with a real quarterback, Denver's going to lose. Like
Yeah.
the Broncos might be able to beat the Colts or like some team with like another questionable quarterback, but if they have to play the Bills or the Chiefs, the team with Bo Nix is not going to win. The Raiders, they put up a better fight than I thought, but that game was, I think, more indicative of how, let's say, worse than the record Denver is than it was really like the Raiders putting up a fight. I mean, the Raiders scored 7 points. It wasn't like they came
No,
out
yeah, they're
firing.
terrible.
And I thought that game was more about the Broncos stinking on offense and the Raiders like putting on a show defensively.
Yeah, and there's not much to say about the Raiders. Look, I'd say they're a somewhat disappointing team because a lot of people picked them to make the playoffs. I didn't. I had them going 8-9. They're not winning 8 games. They'll be lucky to win 5. They are horrendous. I mean, I feel like the Pete Carroll experiment. Pete Carroll is, I mean, one of the best coaches of his era. Probably shouldn't be coaching in 2025. And the Geno Smith experiment has obviously been a massive failure. Just another lost season in Vegas. And for Denver, like, you got to hope Bo Nix can turn it around just a little bit, or it could be a quick exit from the postseason. All right. Now we'll go across the pond in Germany, the second to last international game this season. The Colts bounced back from a pretty shaky performance at best, shaky's being kind, performance against Pittsburgh. They win 31-25 in overtime on a walk-off rushing touchdown by Jonathan Taylor, who's just been an absolute tear this year. They improved to 8-2, stay atop the AFC. The Falcons season is really getting away from them. They fall to 3-6. They've lost 4 straight after that win against the Bills. I mean, this was the Jonathan Taylor show, Lucas. He ran for well over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, including the game winner. He had an 83-yard touchdown run. Jonathan Taylor is on pace for one of the best running back seasons of all time. He has been absolutely unequivocally tremendous this year. Really just, I mean, he's been really good his whole career. He was a first team All Pro in 2021. He really kind of carried the Colts offense in this game. It's unbelievable. I think he's the best running back in football right now. I don't know how close it is, but the Colts win. But it was another kind of somewhat concerning performance from Daniel Jones. He took 7 sacks. Some of them were on him. He threw an interception. He lost a fumble. And I feel like with the Colts, the book's kind of been out. Like, if you can stop Jonathan Taylor, which obviously the Falcons failed miserably at, you can stop their offense because Daniel Jones is kind of showing some pumpkin tendencies. What say you?
I 100% agree. And I'm looking at the PFF underlying numbers, and according to PFF, Daniel Jones was just as responsible for the amount of pressures he was under as the offensive line. On
Yeah.
41.7% of dropbacks, he was responsible for pressure, and the offensive line was at that same number. And PFF actually charged him with 4 of the sacks, which I wholeheartedly agree. They only charged 1 of the sacks to his protection. So that shows like his protection was honestly pretty good. It was just he kept holding onto the ball. He has a problem of he can it kind of seems like he gets like he kind of wears those drunk goggles at times where he just does
Yeah.
not process things correctly. He does some weird things with the ball, which was weird because he went to Duke, so you would think he would have a higher IQ, for higher football IQ. But no, I think the Colts are starting to crack. I just think this it was kind of a story of 2 teams maybe on the decline, and the team that was on the worst decline ended up losing the game because that game was there to be had for the Falcons, but at the same time, the Colts are the better team, top to bottom, and the better team deserved to win this game with the best player in the game, with that being Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Taylor, I mean, I think he's a lock for offensive player of the year at this point. Yeah, for the Falcons, I mean, it was a somewhat promising start of the year. They're 3-2, but I mean, Raheem Morris, barring a turnaround, I think should or at least should be out after this year. And Michael Penix, I think it's getting late early because he has not been good at all in 2025. So another looking like another rough season down in Georgia. Speaking of rough seasons, the Panthers and Saints have been accustomed to those in recent years. The Saints come out with a surprising win on the road in Carolina. They get their second win of the year. They win 17-7. The Panthers get back to 500 at 5-5. And a big story from this game was it was Tyler Shuck's second start, and he played pretty well. I mean, he looked good out there um, against the Panthers defense that is not great, but is better, that is improved from past iterations. But another big story was the play of Bryce Young. Bryce Young sucked ass in this game. He was horrific. They scored 7 points against a really, really bad Saints team at home. And the Panthers have been kind of hiding Bryce Young this year, where like they've been winning games, but Young really just wasn't doing much outside of the Cowboys game. Like he threw for barely over 100 yards against the Packers last week and they won, but they couldn't get away with it. And it sounds like when they can't run the ball, because they've ran the ball really well this year, and yes, you have to make Bryce Young beat you, it's a disaster. And look, he had a really good stretch in meaningless games last year. That's looking like the exception and not the rule. I just think it's fair to say he's not a good starting quarterback at this point. It's unfortunate for Carolina. Um, they've masked it. I mean, they've had a better season than I expected, but I just think if he doesn't play better down the stretch, even if he does, I just think it's time to move on. I think there's better options out there. I don't know who you bring in because I think they'll be picking too late to draft a guy, but I don't know. Like, I just feel like the ceiling of this team with Bryce Young has been reached. I just don't think there's any more you can get out of it. And as for the Saints, I mean, it's a good culture win. Shuck played well, but they're obviously going nowhere in 2025. So it's encouraging that Shuck had a good performance.
Yeah, I pretty much echo what you said. Bryce Young, tire fire in this game. He had a PFF passing grade of 19.9 on
Ooh,
throws on intermediate throws between 10 and 19 yards past the line of scrimmage, and pretty much he was awful. He had a turnover worthy play that didn't count due to a penalty. The pick was horrendous. Like I don't think there's any way the Panthers can go into next year without a backup option on there. Like I'm not saying they have to cut or get rid of Bryce Young, but if they go in with Bryce Young and Andy Dalton as the quarterbacks next year, they're really throwing Dave Canales under the bus because like I don't know how anyone can watch the season and be like, yeah, Bryce Young's more than like a high end backup. And then Tyler
oh, for
Shuck,
sure.
yeah, Tyler Shuck, he played really well. He wasn't like amazing, but like 19 to 29 for 282 yards, average depth of target of 10 and a half yards. So he was pushing the ball down the field, wasn't being a screen merchant. So highly encouraging. We'll see if that translates because he is an older rookie. So I'm kind of glad he's playing well early in the season or early into his season. But we'll see if this translates. I think the Saints have been better than I expected. They finally got their second win, so let's see if they can keep the momentum going for their rookie.
Yeah, I picked the Saints to go 0-17 this year, largely out of like kind of being a gimmick. But Shuck, I mean, if he plays well, and he'll earn the right to be their week 1 starter in 2026. So that's what they're playing for. And yeah, and it's I think the Bryce Young era, they got to at least bring in competition, in my opinion.
Yes.
All right, next game. And this game signaled an end of an era for one of these teams. Bears Giants. The Bears have another come from behind victory, and the Giants choke another game on the road. The Bears win 24-20. They improved to 6-3. And the Giants, another lost season. They fall to 2-8. A big story: Jackson Dart, who was playing well, had to leave the game due to concussion. So it was the Russell Wilson show again, and that went as well as you'd expect, which is not good. And Caleb Williams, I thought, played well in this game. He did not get a lot of help from his receivers. They dropped a lot of passes, but he was clutch at the end. He deserves a lot of credit. I mean, I think Caleb Williams has improved gradually throughout the year. And with the Giants falling to 2-8, they've lost 4 in a row. It signaled the end of the Brian Dable era. Lucas and I will touch on that more tomorrow on what that means, how it went all wrong for Dable after a promising start. Mike Kafka will take over as the interim. But Lucas, I mean, the Bears continue to win football games. They've won 6 of their last 7 games after an 0-2 start. I get it. So you got to be encouraged if you're a Bears fan. Caleb Williams looks like he's taking some strides this year, which is encouraging. And for the Giants, look, on one hand, like Jackson Dart looks like he could play, and I was pretty low on Jackson Dart in the draft. I didn't think he'd be good, but I mean he's played well this year. But I mean if they have to start Russell Wilson against Green Bay next week, which we'll talk about tomorrow, like forget it. As soon as he came in, I knew how that game would end. But yeah, I mean the Bears, they continue to find ways to win, and they're firmly in the playoff picture.
Yeah, I think the main difference between this year's team and last year's team is last year's team found a way to lose games. This team is just like not losing those same games. It's not necessarily that they're a much improved team. It's just that they're better coached, and that's paying dividends right now.
Yeah.
I'm only going to talk about a ridiculous decision that Brian Daboll made. I wouldn't be surprised if it got him fired. Was about 10-19 left in the game.
Get some water real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, they were up 7. The Giants were up 17-10 and they had the ball 4th and goal at the Bears 1 yard line. So the Bears were the Giants were 1 yard away from a touchdown. And people think, well, you kick the field goal, you go 2 possessions. That's actually the wrong decision. One, you got to go for it. Here's why. Number one, if you score the touchdown, the Bears are now down 2 full touchdowns with about 10 minutes left to go in the game, which means they need to go roughly 65, 70 yards twice in order to tie the game. Number two, even if the Giants get stuffed, as long as they don't take like a 10-yard stack, if they just run the ball and they get stuffed, the Bears are backed up on the 1 yard line. And it's a 17-10 game, so yeah, you're nervous about it, but I'm pretty sure that the Bears would rather have the ball at 35 down 10 with 10 minutes left. I just thought it was a ridiculous decision. I know you're turning a 7-point game to a 10-point game with a field goal, but when you have 4th and 1 at 4th and goal at the 1, I was wrong. It's 4th and goal at the half-yard line because the Bears took a defensive too many men penalty. So the Giants would have had to roughly move the ball 18 inches to score a touchdown to go up 24-10. I just thought that was a ridiculous decision. Even if they got stuffed and it was 17-10, the Bears are backed up on their own 1 yard line with 10 minutes to go in the game. So, odds are they're going to use most of that clock, and the Giants are going to have time to get the ball down the field. I just thought it was a bad decision by Daboll. Didn't come back to haunt them, so shows you what I know, because they got the field goal. The Bears went 4 and out, so didn't really affect them. But at the same time, it just showed kind of a cowardly decision. You got to keep your foot on the gas. Best case scenario, you're up 14 instead of 10, and then you force the Bears to go down the field twice instead of them having the luxury of going down the field twice, which they did. Or you fail and you got the Bears backed up, and you potentially can get a safety with that elite pass rush. I just disagree with the decision. I just thought that was ridiculous, but great minds just alike.
Yeah, I mean, you spent about 5 minutes going on a diatribe about that. I heard about it on Twitter. I wasn't watching live when that happened.
Greg Olsen was. I'm telling you, or I was watching this game live. Greg Olsen was going in on Brian Daboll. Like, you would think that Greg Olsen was personally offended by Brian Daboll. Like, it was actually pretty funny.
Greg Olsen does not hold back on the broadcast. That's one thing I like about him.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Giants, it's just been outside of 2022, that team has just been awful every year. Yeah. They start 2-8 for the 3rd year in a row, and now they make a coaching move, which you and I disagreed on. We'll talk about more about it tomorrow. I thought should have happened at the end of last year, but we will save that for the future. All right, and as for the Bears, finding ways to win. All right, next game, probably the wildest game of the week, Lucas. Texans Jags. The Texans, for all intents and purposes, saved their season by coming from behind and beating the Jaguars 36-29, outscoring Jacksonville 29-0 in the fourth quarter of the game, with Davis Mills getting the start, his first start since, I believe, 2022, I think. The Houston improves to 4-5. Jacksonville has lost 3 of their last 4. They fall to 5-4. Playoff hopes kind of slipping away. I mean, that is a hellacious loss for Jacksonville. Horrendous. You cannot lose that game under any circumstances. And this is why that, whenever, as people who cover or discuss the Chiefs, or fans of the Chiefs, however you put it, every time I watch the Jaguars play, it makes that Chiefs loss to the Jaguars is horrendous, because they're not a good team. And they allowed Davis Mills to come back and win. Trevor Lawrence sucked in this game. Now, he did not get a lot of help from his line, but he didn't do much to help the situation either. He threw for under 200 yards. He threw another interception. He's thrown 10 touchdowns and 7 picks this year, through 9 games. And Davis Mills, I mean, started off slow, but give him credit. He was nails down the stretch. I still think Houston probably is out on the outside looking in when it comes to the postseason. But he came in and kept their season alive, getting a huge win at home, and a loss for the Jags that I think could maybe derail their season. You could look back on and say, like the Bears last year when they lost that Hail Mary against Washington, they didn't win a game until week 18. I wouldn't be surprised if Jacksonville goes on a little bit of a losing streak here. And I think we're getting closer, if we're not there already, to have that uncomfortable Trevor Lawrence conversation, because he has not been good this year at all. He really has not been good since, the end of 2022. You want to argue the first half of 2023? Sure. Another underwhelming performance from him. And I don't know. I think that's a loss that will really that's a loss that can really kind of like hurt the locker room, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's brutal. Like I was saying on the preview show last week that if the Jaguars won this game, I accidentally said they'd be a lock to win the division. I meant to say they're a lock to make the playoffs, and I stood by it. Like I think if they held on to win this game, they'd be 6-3, and like they probably just have better vibes. Now they're 5-4, and I'm just kind of nervous about their future. This is a game. Trevor Lawrence was awful. I think he was worse than the box score indicated. He had a fumble at the very end of the game, but like he also had another pick. He also had 2 more dropped picks, and then he had another fumble that Jacksonville recovered. So he easily could have had 5 turnovers in this game. Was lucky to only have 2. I don't think he's been like a net negative this year, but based on his contract, he has been a net negative. When he signed the contract he did, he cannot be playing as poorly as he is. If he was making the Baker Mayfield contract, I think they were fine. He'd be fine, or if he was still on his rookie contract. But man, it just seems like he plateaued after 2022, and if not regressed a tiny bit. He's been not good. The Jacksonville offensive line was bad. He was horrible. Davis Mills was bad, but played clutch down the stretch. He had 4 turnover-worthy plays himself, but at the same time, the Texans won. I think if they lost this game, the Jaguars won. Jacksonville was a safe playoff team, and the Texans were out. Not anymore. It might be reversed. I think I have more faith in the Texans to make the playoffs than the Jags at this point.
100%. I don't think either get in. I just think Houston. I think it'll be now. They get the Titans this week. There's a real world where they get to 500. Even if Stroud's out again in that game, they could beat the Titans with Davis Mills 100%. I gotta wonder, and we'll talk about this later on, like maybe Trevor Lawrence is somewhere else next year. I don't know. Maybe that things run its course in Duval, but we shall see how the rest of the year goes. I'm not optimistic about Jacksonville. All right. The shocker of the week, Dolphins Bills. The Dolphins not only beat the Bills, who won their Super Bowl last week in week 9, not only not in a nail biter, but a laugher. 30-13. Miami improves to 3-7. They've won 2 of their last 3. Buffalo falls to 6-3. They are 2-3 since starting 4-0. Tua was up and down. He was efficient. He also threw 2 interceptions, which is what he does. Tua is the interception machine. But I mean, they scored 30 points. Devon Achane had a great game. Mike McDaniel looks like the players are still playing hard for him, which is kind of surprising. But I mean, when you play like that against a team that is allegedly a contender, I mean, at least shows something. But the big story is not the Dolphins. I mean, it's a good win. It's a good culture win. They're not going anywhere this year. They're going to win like 5 or 6 games. The big story is the Bills. I mean, oh my God. Because when you look at the Bills, that win against the Chiefs, you look at them and say, okay, like this is a team that this is going to start their run. They're going to get going. I picked them to win the Super Bowl this year, as I said multiple times, and they're going to be a bear down the stretch. And then they go out to South Beach and do that against a team that they have owned in the Josh Allen era. Even in the first matchup this year, they a game that I was at, they struggled in that game, even though they won. Josh Allen was bad in this game. There's no way around it. He had 2 turnovers. He had a horrendous interception in the end zone. I think the box score is a little misleading. The 300 passing yards, that's not real. A lot of that was garbage time. They had 0 points going into the fourth quarter. James Cook lost a fumble. The receivers struggled. It just was bad, all around bad for Buffalo. The defense sucked in the game. And it's a loss that you look at for the Bills and say, like, what is this team? Like, where are they going? Because we'll get to New England later. They won again. So there's a real world where in a allegedly Super Bowl or bust season, you're starting the playoffs on the road. Just bad all around for Buffalo. There's no way around it. And look, the roster construction is looking very shaky. Allen's got to play better. They're just a horrendous loss. There's no way other way to put it.
Yeah, they were horrendous in this game, and I'm looking at the PFF numbers, and I'm not going to look at the grades, only the tackling grades. The Buffalo Bills, I think, are tied with the Cardinals for the worst tackling grade on defense. They're like in the mid 30s, but in this game, they had a 30.0 tackling grade. Just to rub it in Chiefs fans, every game since week 2, so from week 3 through week 10, every single game, the Dolphins have had a tackle grade at 52 or worse. And then in all but one of those games, they were at 38 or worse, except for the Chiefs game, in which they had a tackling grade of 70.7. So I think Chiefs fans, you just got to maybe feel slightly better. The Bills genuinely did play a good game, but overall, the Bills are not a good team. The Bills, this is a game they had to win. I mean, the Dolphins you thought were cooked, but I'm not going to dive too much into them. I just don't think Buffalo's that good. I'm not scared of the Bills. If you're a Chiefs fan in the playoffs, I don't care. Like the Chiefs are going to beat them in the playoffs again. I think this game was maybe taught us about Mike McDaniel, that he still got it. Like I kind of held the opinion that Mike McDaniel is not an awful coach. I didn't think he was like some great coach like Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay, but like he knows how to coach offense. And I think if he can maintain locker room respect, I don't think he deserves to get fired, but maybe he will, just because I think a new GM might want to have his own guy.
Yeah, 100%. I like McDaniel's offensive acumen was never in question. It was whether he could lead a locker room. And I think the fact that this team is still going out there and playing like that, even in a lost season, shows it bodes well for him. I don't know if he's back next year, but I think the rest of the season will tell us a lot about that. And for the Bills, I mean, it's not going to get any easier. I mean, they only have a couple gimmies left. They have one game against the Jets, one game against the Browns, and the rest of their games, I think, are entirely losable when you look at their schedule. So, which we'll get into tomorrow. It's an unforgivable loss for Buffalo. Horrendous in every sense of the word. All right, going up to Lucas's home state, the Ravens and the Vikings. The Ravens win their 3rd straight to improve to 4-5. The Vikings lose to fall to 4-5. The Ravens won 27-19. This game was close for a while. The Vikings took an early lead, but Baltimore pulled away late. Lamar Jackson was kind of a game manager in this game. He didn't really have to do much. But a big story was J.J. McCarthy threw 2 interceptions. I don't think McCarthy played as bad as a lot of other people did. I thought Justin Jefferson's effort on one of the interceptions was pretty lackluster. I thought the play calling by Kevin O'Connell was a bit shaky at times. It was just not a great game for the Vikings. There's not a whole lot to take away. The Ravens, it's a game that they should have won. They're the better team. They did. But it's a bad loss for the Vikings in the sense that, like, if you win this game, like the realistic possibility of making the playoffs goes up, and now it just feels like, the season is basically a 1-game season from here on out, especially given the state of their division.
Yeah, this is not a good loss for the Vikings, especially because it was there to be had. They were winning in the 3rd quarter, albeit by 1 point, but they did go into halftime with a lead. JJ McCarthy threw a pick, but again, that was a pick that was not on McCarthy because Justin Jefferson fell after contact with, I believe it was Marlon Humphrey that picked it off, and that kind of like ended things there. Lamar didn't do anything in this game. He had an average at the target of 4.6. He had like one bad throw in this game. Other than that, was pretty all right. I thought JJ was bad. I thought the second pick to Marlon Humphrey, deep middle, was not his fault, but he just was bad. He had an adjusted completion percentage of under 65%. And if you don't know, an adjusted completion percentage
Yeah.
counts for drops, batted passes, hit as you throw, and throwaways. 65% is like horrendous. You're that's basically like a real completion percentage of under 50%. And so he was bad, not necessarily because he was reckless, just because he just kept missing. Granted, threw the ball deep a lot because they were down a lot in the second half, but like on throws between 10 and 19 yards down the field, 4 at 10 with one drop. So he missed on 50% of his throws, over 50% of his throws past the sticks. That can't happen. I still believe in him, but like, man, that's a rough look. In Baltimore, they're still in this thing. Pittsburgh's floundering. Cincinnati might be getting Burrow back, but it's probably too late for them, and Cleveland's Cleveland. Baltimore
it's
might
too
win this
late.
division.
Oh yeah, I think the Ravens are going to win. There's a reason why they were still favored when they were 1-5, just because I mean the Steelers are who they are. We'll get to them later. Now the Ravens do have a tendency to lose games they have no business losing, so I don't think they're out of the woods yet. But I mean, if Burrow comes back, they'll have to play the Bengals with Burrow twice. Not that that matters because I still think the Bengals are so bad defensively that the Ravens should still win. But they deserve credit. John Harbaugh deserves credit for keeping them in it, and obviously they're a far different team with Lamar Jackson in there. All right, Lucas, we don't need to spend any time in this game. Jets Browns. The Jets win 27-20. The Jets win their second straight. They improved to 2-7. The Browns fall to 2-7. Justin Fields. This is the third time in the last 4 games where he threw for under 100 yards. Just horrendous football. Breece Hall, much to the chagrin of Chiefs fans, was awesome. Really kind of carried the Jets offense. Dylan Gabriel stunk, which is not surprising. I just don't get how Shedeur Sanders could be worse. I mean, these two teams are going nowhere this year. At least for the Jets, I'll say one thing. It looks like their culture, Aaron Glenn's like at least like putting some good vibes into that team. But it's clear like they're probably going to win like 4 games. As for the Browns, like it was a toilet bowl. It was an entertaining game from just like it was close, but yeah, it was a ultimately meaningless football game.
Yeah, Jets back-to-back special teams touchdowns. Good on them for that. Justin Fields had 2 throws this game, more than 7 yards past the line of scrimmage. That's just a joke. And one of those was picked off, and it was a pretty horrendous pick at that. Justin Fields, this is kind of his last chance. I kind of didn't blame the Jets for taking a chance on him because, one, he has a high ceiling, but he's also like has a low enough floor to where they could ethically tank. They could play him like thinking, oh, he's the future, but still lose games. I think the Jets, I like what they did at the trade deadline, but this team's probably going to be a bottom 2 to 3 team this year. Justin Fields is done. We'll see what they do, but the Browns, not exactly impressed. Dylan Gabriel did not impress me. Myles Garrett, despite playing at an offensive line that's actually not terrible, Myles Garrett did nothing in this game. The fact that I spent more than 30 seconds talking about it is kind of embarrassing. I apologize to the audience. Let's move on.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to a more meaningful game. Patriots Bucks. A game that both of us got wrong, Lucas. The Patriots go down to Tampa and prove to all the people that said they've beaten nobody. Watch this. They beat Tampa 28-23. They've won their 7th straight game to improve to 8-2. Tampa has lost 2 of their last 3 games. They fall to 6-3. This game was not even close as the final score. The Bucks kind of scored a garbage time touchdown at the end. I thought Drake May played well. He's a little bit inconsistent. He was 16 of 31 passing. So the completion percentage was not very good, but he threw a bad pick in the end zone. But he also made some big time throws. He stood in the pocket under pressure. Ultimately, I thought he played a solid game. He made some bad plays, but he also made some really nice plays. Baker, I thought was decent, but ultimately not good enough. He's definitely cooled down since his hot start to the season. I mean, this is a statement win for New England. There's no way around it. Like, they are a team that I think, barring a collapse, will ultimately end up winning that division. They're 2 games ahead of Buffalo. They already beat Buffalo in Buffalo. Their upcoming schedule, I mean, they have the Jets, they have the Bengals, they have the Giants. Like, I don't see many more losses for this team. And this was probably one of their toughest games remaining. And they go down there and beat a good, maybe not great, but a good Tampa team. This is the biggest win. People say the Bills game. I think this was probably the most impressive statement win of the Mike Vrabel, Drake May era in New England. I don't know how real of contenders they are in terms of winning the Super Bowl. I don't know if they're there yet, but like they're going to be there soon. This team's going to be here for a while. As for Tampa, like I don't think it's a horrendous loss. They're still going to win that division. Although like Baker needs to get going again. He needs to get back to his early season form. But I think this is more about the Patriots than it was about Tampa, and by a
Yeah,
wide margin.
yeah. This is the most. Yeah, I agree. This is the most impressive one of the season, mostly because I don't think Drake May played that well. Like, I don't think
Yeah,
he
he had
wasn't
some really
awful.
bad plays. Yeah,
Like he had some good moments. Like Kyle Williams, who I was a big fan of coming out, he had a big play in this game, a big touchdown. Travion Henderson, who I was also a big fan of, he had two big touchdowns in the second half of that game. And Drake May, like he had that interception in the end zone that kind of like kind of kept Tampa in the game. But
bad
he
throw.
also had he had an adjusted completion percentage of 61%. So I was making fun of JJ McCarthy for being at 65. Drake May was even lower, but Drake May Drake May. You know the meme. He won the
Yeah,
moments in
of
this
course.
game. He was clutch, and I think it was good because they won and he didn't play that well, which means they're not a one man team. It shows like, hey, like we could win a playoff game without our quarterback being A plus. Very good sign. Just got to, but the Bucks just got to hope when they get all their guys back. Mike Evans should be back at some point in the regular season. You would think maybe his season's over, but like they kind of need all their guys back because they have a really undersized receiving core outside of Kate Otten. It's like a lot of small guys or guys
Hmm.
that play small. So not a lot of guys to like help Baker Mayfield throw like back shoulder fades or 50-50 balls to. So kind of limits the offense. And you got to get Bucky Irving back too to help the run game.
100%. I just think Tampa needs to. Now they go to Buffalo this week against. So it's two teams that will like really be desperate to win that game. It'll be very interesting. But yeah, New England I think has established themselves as a team that is a real, not a contender's tough word. I'd say they're a contender. I think they could be anybody in the AFC. They just got to sustain it down the stretch. All right, going out of the afternoon slate, Seahawks Cardinals. Seattle continues to absolutely roll. They beat Arizona 44-22, and it was not that close. They improved to 7-2. Arizona falls to 3-6. A big story: DeMarcus Lawrence scored two defensive touchdowns in this game. Sam Darnold really wasn't asked to do a whole lot. He was efficient. They were up 28-0 before the anthem ended. Jacoby Brissett really kind of came back down to earth after playing the Cowboys defense. He lost a couple fumbles. Just not a good performance. After basically saying they were done with Kyler Murray, they go out and do this. The Cardinals season is essentially lost at this point. They had a brief window with that win over the Cowboys saying, hey, maybe we can get back in it. No, I mean, they're going to finish last place in that division. I don't know how much longer Jonathan Gannon has. And the Seahawks, a team that I picked to go 5-12 this year, is looking like maybe the best team in their conference. They're a complete team. They're really good on both sides of the ball. They have an MVP candidate quarterback. I mean, there's not really a whole lot that this Seattle team's not doing well at a high level, Lucas.
No, like I was wrong about Seattle. I thought they were going to be like a 7-8 win team. Dead wrong. Sam Darnold did not do anything in this game. He only threw 12 passes. One of those was picked off, and it was his fault. But at the same time, or no, it wasn't his fault, but it was he still had a turnover-worthy play. The fact that they won by 3 touchdowns and their quarterback didn't do anything shows how strong the team is. I think Seattle, if they can beat the Rams at least once in their upcoming matchups, they're going to be in a good spot to win the division. If they could sweep, they're definitely going to win the division. But I think Seattle, as long as Sam Darnold doesn't totally pumpkin, they could beat anyone in that conference any day.
100%, 100%. And it's a testament to Mike McDonald and what he's done with that team because again, it's a team that a lot of people like didn't have much expectations for. They haven't been in the playoffs the last couple of years, and they've been a dominant force this season. In Arizona, I mean, there's not much to say. They're going nowhere. After some people on this podcast, not naming names, picked them to make the playoffs. All right, next game, staying in the NFC West, Rams Niners. The Rams hang up a 40 burger on San Francisco in Levi Stadium, 42-26. They improved to 7-2. San Francisco falls to 6-4. They've lost two of their last three games. And I mean, if we said the Seahawks are in contention for the best team in the NFC, here's who they're in competition with. It's their division rival, the Rams. They look dominant in this one. Matthew Stafford, in my opinion, is leading the MVP charge. He had 4 touchdown passes in this one. They got back after that game that they kind of gave away, that Thursday night game against the Niners at home. The Niners just looked kind of overmatched in this one. I think their injuries really reared their head. Mac Jones, I actually thought played pretty well for the most part. He did throw a bad interception, but it was just trying to get back in the game. Defensively, I think their injuries have really kind of caught up to them. I don't know. I think the better team clearly won. And the Rams, like I said, they're very similar to Seattle, where they're a little bit more proven because they've been in the playoffs last couple of years. Of course, McVay and Stafford are a Super Bowl winning combo, but they imposed their will in this one. They showing that they are right atop the list of Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah, I agree. I think right now the two best teams in probably the NFL, you could are perfectly validly make a perfectly valid argument. The two best teams are the Rams and the Seahawks. Like, I'm not going to sit here and call you crazy if you say that. I thought, yeah, Matt Stafford, I think, was perfect. In the first half, he played about as perfect as you can be. Second half dropped off a little bit, but didn't really need to play that perfect in the second half. He was amazing. When kept clean, he was 19 to 24 for 220 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and a 96 overall PFF grade. So he was literally perfect when not under pressure. I still question that offensive line, whether they can hold up. But if Matthew Stafford can be kept clean, this offense could score about as many points in the NFL as anyone.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
And
Stafford.
and they,
Keep going.
and they
Yeah.
got to and I forgot to make sure. And they got to make sure the receivers are healthy because I think Devontae Adams left that game. Nakua just got back with an injury, so they need their guys to stay healthy. But like, if their team could stay in one piece, this team could beat anyone.
Yeah, Adams and Nakua both scored touchdowns in this one. Adams has really been good this year, coming off a season where like maybe it was looks like okay, maybe he's not the same player he once was. He leads the league in receiving touchdowns, which is pretty impressive. Obviously, Puka Nakua, we know who he is when he's healthy. And Stafford, I mean, I didn't have him having the best season of his career this year on my bingo card, but here we are. All right, last afternoon day game, Lions Commanders. We don't need to spend a ton of time on this, Lucas. It was a rematch of last year's divisional round. The Commanders are a shell of that team that went into Detroit and knocked off the Lions last January. The Lions get back. They win 44-22. They bounce back after a pretty rough loss to the Vikings last week. They improved to 6-3, and with the Packers loss last night, they take over first place in the NFC North. The Commanders, I mean, it's just a cooked season. They fall to 3-7. Jared Goff for this game was pretty efficient. Played pretty well, in my opinion. Marcus Mariota, I mean, he's just up against it. There's not much he can do at this point. I don't see a reason why Jaden Daniels should play again this year. It's clear Washington. It's just not their year in any capacity. And the Lions, look, I think the Lions are definitely in that Super Bowl conversation. They have been a little bit inconsistent for my liking. Like, you probably shouldn't lose to the Vikings at home, but this was a nice bounce back performance and avenging their rough end to the season last year against the team that sent them home.
Yeah, Detroit, I think, is still a pretty good team. I don't know how much of a Super Bowl contender they are. I think they are, but they're probably on the lower end. And the Washington, yeah, I mean, I know there's talk that Jaden Daniels could be back in
There's no
like
point.
2 weeks, but like they're 3-7. Like, really, you're gonna have him return? Like, I know it's his non-throwing arm that I believe it was his non-throwing arm that got hurt, so it's not like they're like really risking his career by having him back. But like, I just don't know why you would risk like hurting his confidence more than anything.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels should not play this year. They should get him ready for 2026.
Oh, and I also got to say one thing. One fun fact about this game: it is the second time in NFL history where a game finished 44-22. The other game to finish 44-22 was Seahawks Cardinals on Sunday. So
Oh my
Scorigami went
goodness.
nuts. Yeah,
Interesting.
Scorigami went
Yeah.
nuts.
Wow. Very interesting. Yeah. Look, the Commanders, I mean, I picked to make the playoffs this year, but like injuries, regression, it just kind of came crashing down, and they got to build this thing back up. And the Lions, they had to win this game. Like they had to go there and get a win, and they did. So they head to Philly to take on the Eagles next Sunday night. All right, last 2 games, primetime games. I got a cough here. Excuse me. Chargers, Steelers, like one that Lucas and I both missed on. The Steelers flew all the way out to LA to get their ass kicked by the Chargers, 25-10. Pittsburgh falls to 5-4. Their lead in the AFC North slowly slipping away as the Ravens are kind of getting back into it. The Chargers get a pretty big win here. They improved to 7-3. This was actually a close game for the most part. The Chargers pulled away late. The Steelers, Rodgers threw a garbage time touchdown to Roman Wilson to make this more competitive than, make it look better than it really was. The big story of this game was the performance of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was horrific in this football game. Easily his worst game as a Steeler, not even close. He had a QBR of 4.6. He before garbage time had a passer rating of 19. He had a PFF grade in the 30s. He threw 2 interceptions. Now, one of them was not his fault. It hit Calvin Austin in the hands. He had a horrendous safety. Aaron Rodgers, I think it's fair to say, cost the Steelers this game because the Steelers defensively played pretty well. The Steelers defensively looks like they've turned some things around the last couple of weeks. Justin Herbert quietly was not very good either in this game. He had a negative EPA. He threw a pass that should have been intercepted. Justin Herbert didn't have a great game, but looked like Joe Montana compared to Rodgers. And Lucas, if you're the Steelers, I mean, the Steelers have been atrocious in primetime this year. They're 0-3 in primetime, which, I mean, people made the jokes like it's past like the guys in their team's bedtimes, but how concerned would you be about this Rodgers performance? Because it's his first truly awful game this year. Actually, he was pretty awful against New England, but they won that game, so they got away with it. But it was his first obscenely awful game and a loss. Is this like a one-off, or is this maybe a trend moving forward where he doesn't want to get hit and things kind of fall off the rails?
I think it's about to fall off the rails. I just don't think we're going to get that guy consistently, week in, week out. That's going to be a top 10 to 15 quarterback. Maybe at best they get 2 more vintage Rodgers performances, but that's it. This is not a guy they can rely upon week in, week out. He was horrible in this game, just absolute embarrassment. He was inaccurate. And I think the pivotal moment in the game, there was they had a 4th down deep in Chargers territory. I forgot when it was specifically, but tried to throw a back
quarter.
shoulder.
Yeah, tried to throw a back shoulder. Yeah. It was after Dicker missed the field goal. Yeah.
Yep. Tried to throw a back shoulder to DK Metcalf, and I was like, what are they doing? And I know a lot of people blame their offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith. That seemed like a Rodgers play call there. Because it seems like he ran that play to Devontae Adams a million times when they were in Green Bay. I just thought that was a goofy play call, and it shows Rodgers doesn't quite have it. I hate those type of play calls on 4th down because it's so risky. But at the same time, it's what Rodgers wanted to run. I think the Steelers team is cooked. I think they'll somehow get to 9 wins, but I used to think maybe they'll be competitive in a wild card round. I take that back. They'll get their 9 wins. Whether they lose in the wild card round or are done after week 18 remains to be seen.
Yeah, maybe they get to 10. I mean, they somehow beat the Colts last week. I mean, they have the Bengals this week. If Rodgers is going to be back to vintage form, that's the team to do it against. So I don't know. It's a pretty concerning performance by them. I wouldn't say they're cooked because I can't say a Mike Tomlin team is cooked. By cooked for the Steelers, it means they're not winning a playoff game. They'll win 9 or 10 games. Do you think they could get to 10? I mean, they have to go 5-3 down the stretch. I mean, their games are Bengals, Bears, Bills, Ravens twice, Dolphins, Lions, Browns. So,
I mean, I think they'll lose to the Bears. I think they'll lose to the Bills. They'll beat the Bengals. They'll lose to the Lions, and
they'll beat the Dolphins.
And they'll probably beat the Browns. But is that just a Myles Garrett goes off game?
Yeah.
I think they'll get to 9 at least, but I'm not convinced if they're going to get a 5th win. I think they have 5 wins. I'm not convinced they're going to get a 5th win out of that.
I think they'll beat the Bears, but that remains to be seen. But I don't know. The Steelers fans going to hope that's a one-off for Rodgers. And for the Chargers, really good performance. The offensive line is going to hinder them, but I mean, they got away with it in this game. All right. We started the week with a 10-7 game. We're now ending the week with a 10-7 game. Eagles-Packers. The Eagles win 10-7. They improved to 7-2. They've won 3 straight. The Packers fall to 5-3-1. Man, this game was not great display of football. The Eagles offensively were very choppy. Jalen Hurts, I don't think was horrible in this game. He had a bad fumble that was horrendous, but he did. I feel like he played very conservative, very safe. He definitely played better than Jordan Love did, who, watching the All-22, Jordan Love was brutal in this one. He did not see open receivers. He held on to the ball too long. He took off and ran when he didn't have to. Lucas, I don't like the way this Packers team is trending. I think they're very good defensively. But this offense has just been, I mean, all three of their losses this year, they've given up 10 points to Philadelphia, 13 points to Cleveland, and 16 points, 16 points to Carolina. Like, it's just not going to get it done. Jordan Love's got to be better. There's been some things about maybe they move on from Matt LaFleur. I think that'd be insane. I would not fire Matt LaFleur. But yeah, just really ugly football game in Green Bay.
Yeah, not good. I'm starting to regret my Packers to the Super Bowl pick. I think it'll be one of the two NFC West teams. So not great. Jordan Love, that was kind of a game you had to play well, and you didn't. So that's kind of like the Jordan Love haters are kind of winning. Both quarterbacks were horrendous in the first half, like dreadful. Jalen Hurts turned it on in the second half. Jordan Love,
Yeah.
not so much. Micah Parsons, I thought, played pretty well in that game, but like nothing like overwhelmingly good. He got beat up in the run game a few times, but the Eagles, they won. I'm not a big fan of them for in a multitude of reasons, but they're 7-2 when they're the defending champs. So I guess you could say they're the favorite in the NFC right now.
Yeah, I think it's them and the two, like you said, the two NFC West teams, and then
Yeah.
I'll throw Detroit in there as well. Green Bay, like I think they'll make the playoffs, but like I think when that offense without Tucker Kraft, I don't think they can get to the Super Bowl without Tucker Kraft. I just think it's gonna be another year where they're a playoff team and not much more. And it's unfortunate because they looked like world beaters early in the year, and it just hasn't gone that way. Like they gotta look, maybe they win a game, maybe they get to the divisional round, but I just think without Kraft, that offense is just so limited. And doesn't matter how good their defense plays. And as for the Eagles, it looks like defensively, it looks like they're closer to the team they were last year. They need more consistency on offense. They got away with it in this one. And they're currently first in the NFC. So there you go. All right. That wraps up the action from week 10. Lucas and I will be back tomorrow to talk about some headlines this week and give our picks for week 11. So that will be tomorrow evening. Lucas, do you have any parting thoughts before we end this episode?
I do not. Best of luck to everyone else's team, except if you're a Broncos or a Bills fan. So best of luck, or an Eagles fan. Best of luck and stay safe. I hope everyone stays safe, even if you're a Bills fan. So excellent. I have nothing else to add. I'll let you take them out.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you tomorrow night.